Hi, I am Laura Marshall Clark, a Muscogee Creek curator, and this is the exhibition Chiefs, Clans, and Kin. We're coming to you today from the Choctaw Cultural Center in Calera, Oklahoma, and many thanks to my cameraman today, Randall Crossman from the Choctaw Cultural Center. We want to show you a little bit of the art today and tell you about Chiefs, Clans, and Kin. It's an exhibition featuring 34 distinguished Five Civilized Tribes artists. They are of Southeastern and Celtic heritage, which means from Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. These artists have taken topics from our exhibition, Chiefs, Clans, and Kin, and thought about what expresses singular and combined identities to talk about their own ancestors along with their indigenous ancestors. We have lots of art to show you and we'll try to take you through, but we don't have time today to talk about all the art. This is a beautiful tapestry and it is by an artist called Edna Massey. She's a Cherokee, and this is an incredible silk screen on linen. And this was on courtesy, loaned on courtesy by a collector that is very important because Edna was an employee of the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and in the 30s she began to do this artwork, and in later years became very instrumental in promoting Native American art for the U.S. government, starting art exhibitions and promoting Indian art, as we used to call it, in foreign embassies across the world. Another segment here we have in this display case would be pottery. Pottery is very important to Southeast tribal cultures. As many of you may know, we lived in the Southeast, the five tribes lived in the Southeast before forced removal in the 1830s. This is an artist, Scott Roberts, who is a Muscogee Creek artist. And we're very grateful to every artist that loaned their artwork to this exhibition. This is an artist named Brenda Kingery, who's Chickasaw and lives currently in San Antonio, Texas. Brenda's subject matter is often about powwows. However, much of her work is a narrative symbolism, which means she tells a story, but her artworks appear abstract. Brenda has a large work called Logna, which means yellow in Chickasaw. And this work is oftentimes in her narrative symbolism, she might do 25 or more layers of paint in her work. Can you see a powwow dancer? She often has so much good movement and beauty. You might see in her artwork ribbons or a dancer. You would see poles and lots of texture. Even within the small detail, you might see textiles. Much of her work is based in the study that she did in Japan in her earlier education. They're just stunning. To our right here is an artwork by Cherokee Martha Berry. Martha is a bead worker, and this is a bandolier bag. This is specifically made to honor Martha's Cherokee and Scottish heritage, and it's called When the Highlands Meets the Mounds. It's incredible. Lots of symbolism in the band around that goes around the shoulder and connects to the bag below. In this case right here, we have a father and a son. Daniel Worcester is the father, and his son is also called Dan Worcester as well. His son goes by J. Daniel Worcester, and they are both bladesmiths. They forge their own blades from found materials, oftentimes from old tools or it might be from, in these cases, if you see the handles, it's called bakelite, and they're found billiard balls. Especially interesting for this particular exhibition is the knife on the back, and it's entitled Nessie. And Nessie is symbolizes the Loch Ness Monster. In these vignettes, we come back to paintings. This one is an ancient clan mother, and it's called Holy Topa, which means sublime. And you see the tattoos on the face. Southeastern tribes tattooed their bodies in ancient times. And they might tattoo their faces, their necks, their arms, their chests. And also here in this vignette are more works on paper and canvas. This work in particular is by an artist, Phyllis Fife. She is Muscogee, and this is called Riding While Red, and it's a story of the Crazy Snake Rebellion at the turn of the century, when they rounded up people that were having discussions led by Chito Harjo, and they put them in jail. Her grandfather was one. This is a Choctaw artist in particular, and it's called Girl Power. Stickball is very important to the Five Civilized Tribes. And not only men play in this day and time, but women. And they have tournaments. And this was the artist's niece. The artist is Gwen Coleman Lester, and she is Choctaw. This is acrylic on canvas. And the words at the top I love. It looks like a poster, and it means, in English, it means girl power. That's Choctaw, and I might not pronounce it correctly. So I'll just let you look at it. Next to the girl power is Diora Day, a work by J. Dillon Cavan, also a Choctaw. It's ink and watercolor on paper. And Diora Day means hummingbird fuchsia in Ireland. And he's incorporated both indigenous culture in the blanket on the young girl and the hummingbird fuchsia plant. In this area, we have a beautiful combination of first, a 3D piece by Choctaw Karen Berry. Karen is from the Cherokee Nation. She's also Martha Berry's daughter. So you can see, even as we've called this Chiefs, Clans, and Kin, we show the kinships of family with some of the artists. This is a gourd, and it's beautifully painted with acrylic. She carves it, and it's easy to see the Irish influences on the design work on the Celtic knot on the front of this beautiful gourd. Another piece next to it is by Phyllis Fife, Muscogee. It's called A Walk on My Soul, and it's an intaglio dry point on paper, and it tells a story of the ancient ancestors in their southeast homelands, and the symbolism of their pots. And this was even, this has a long story behind it, but it's a beautiful story of trying to bring attention to the lands in our homelands of the Southeast in Alabama and Georgia, and how those are being disrupted by construction and by people building on top of those lands. And that's why she calls it a walk on my soul, because that's where her ancestors lived, and there are pottery shards there that are still being desecrated as they're being dug up for parking lots and buildings and things of that nature. This beautiful painting in the center is called Between Two Worlds. Chickasaw Billy Henley, Billy's also Choctaw heritage as well, and he depicts a woman who is caught between two identities. So it would be her Celtic identity, Irish, Scottish, and also her Choctaw and Chickasaw heritage. It looks like she is looking through time, and even though her face is troubling, it's very beautiful. This is a Choctaw potter, Katie Shaw, and she has two pieces in this exhibition. The pot in the back is called Chata Albana, and it is clay, and also in the front is what they call a handheld rattle, and it's entitled Four Seasons. In this area, we have a beautiful textile by Chickasaw Choctaw Margaret Roach Wheeler. Margaret is a textile expert and designer and a weaver. And this was created by a warp that had already been put on a loom by somebody that she works with, another artist. And so she loved the beautiful greens and yellows, and it's appropriately entitled Emerald Isle. As you may remember, that's what they call Ireland. Most of these artists have Irish and Scottish or Welsh heritage, but primarily Irish and Scottish. In the 1700s, the Irish came to this continent, and then they began to intermarry with the indigenous peoples in the Southeast. And this is the story of the Choctaw gift to the Irish. In 1847, news of the Great Famine came to America, also known as the Potato Famine. The Choctaw people heard about the famine and how people were starving to death in Ireland. And so they began to bring money to the Choctaw Agency in Scullyville and sent money to Ireland to help assuage the starvation of the people there. It hadn't been that long before, in 1831, when they had their own trail of tears and death during the removal period, where we traveled from the Southeast to what became Indian Territory and later Oklahoma, where many Choctaw people and subsequently others in the Five Civilized Tribes died on the trail, and many also died after they came to Indian Territory. And so they sent a gift to Ireland of money that in today's terms would equal $5,000. So even when they were struggling in the new Indian Territory, they still wanted to give out of their own compassion for the Irish people. So it's a phenomenal connection that's even continuing today. This is exhibited in a painting by Choctaw artist Jane Semple Umstead, and she wanted to honor the Choctaw gift to the Irish with this acrylic on canvas. So as you can see in this painting, in the background, the Choctaw man is offering this monetary gift to the Irish. And the Choctaws were not the only one who gave money or blankets or sent other supplies to Ireland. The Cherokee Nation did as well. On the left is corn, which represents abundance and a harvest to our people. And on the right, you can see the workers in the field, which would represent the Irish potato farmer. In the left of that is a mixed media textile by Muscogee artist Shelley Patrick. It's entitled Comparatively Speaking to Knot Grasping, and shows the Celtic knot on her hand and on her arm, which is a tattoo. This is a funny little piece. I wanted to enter one little piece that was done while I was in Ireland, at least started there and finished here. It's a very impressionistic, almost abstract piece, not quite. It's called The Angels of Cork, and the angel in the white with the semi-blondish hair is the Irish angel, and as an impressionistic piece, it might be hard to tell, but you can see the braids of my own tribal ancestor. That's my angel that went with me when I got to go to Ireland and teach in 2021 at University College Cork. So it's a little honor to the Cork people, and then also to my trip there. I love this piece. It's called Birth of Chiefs, Clans, and Kin. It's by Sac and Fox Muscogee Seminole artist Tony Tiger. It's a large work. It's acrylic on panel, and also serigraph and ink. And if you go to First Americans Art Museum in Oklahoma City, they have a Smithsonian exhibit that has cultural material from the Seminole people, and you will see these designs in some of the outerwear that's from the Smithsonian collection. We want to talk about textiles for just a minute. These two are also made by Margaret Roach Wheeler, and I'm just going to cross over behind our cameraman. These are called, in Ireland, they're called brots or plaids, and it's very much like the ancient textiles that they wore, only they have indigenous design work in the weaving that Margaret created. She also includes on the sides of the brot a brooch, very much like ancient Irish historical pieces that are in the Museum of Archaeology in Dublin, Ireland. And these are made of wool and silk wool yarns, and then that's silver and brass. Those are Scottish brooches in this case, and they were created by Randy Wright. I want to talk about this piece also by Margaret. This is an astounding work that Margaret created. Margaret is Chickasaw and Choctaw, and this honors her Chickasaw and Choctaw heritage and her Irish and Scottish heritage. This is called Ishtaboli, which means stickball, and it was another word for stickball in our Southeast cultures was little brother of war. And it's silk and wool, and just like the other works, and it is outstanding. So she's created a kilt, and then she's also, the stickballs are made by a Choctaw stickball maker, and she created this, she wove the fabric that went over this body form. She created the body form, and then wove the flesh-toned fabric on top of that, and even embroidered the stickball stick decorations. Now y'all are gonna love this because this is a super fun one. And this is Odo, Missouri Cherokee artist Tom Ferris. And Tom loved the idea of creating a kilt for himself. And this is entitled, the work is entitled Off Kilter. And he also created a war club for the piece. So it's very manly, and it's fun to see him wear it. It fits the artist, and he is very proud of his heritage. This is a very interesting piece by Chickasaw artist Tawny Tyra Shackelford. It's entitled The Raven. The raven is hand-woven textile and represents the importance of birds in ancient Southeast cultures. Birds were a spirit animal represented in clans and represented in culture in many ways. This is a hand-woven textile. You can see multiple threads woven in. It's bison merino yarn and bison muga silk yarn. The goose feathers are dyed black and representative of raven feathers woven into the fabric and on the back of the textile. And you also notice that there's a beautiful wooden brooch in the front that closes the textile. Feathers were very important in Southeast cultures and included eagle, turkey, raven, or even swan feather capes. This segment of the exhibition in the gallery, on the left you have Cherokee artist America Meredith, and this is called Stomp Dance. And America is honoring her Cherokee Nation heritage, and the women were it could be turtle rattles, or in this case, milk can rattles strapped to their legs, and they dance with the men around the sacred fire and the stomp dances. And this is a linoleum block print. In the center is a large piece of acrylic on canvas, and it is by Jimmy C. Fife, also a Muscogee artist, and from the Fife family. It's entitled Vanished World. And in this piece, you'll see a lot of Southeast iconography from mound building days during the Mississippi cultural period. It's outstanding. Tony Tiger also included this piece in our exhibition. It's called All My Being, and also is Sack and Fox Muscogee Seminole design work. It's acrylic on panel and serigraph with ink. We'll go around this corner and stop for a moment in front of Sarah Sense, a Choctaw artist, her piece called Does Water Have Memory? And this is her Choctaw grandfather. And this is on loan courtesy of the artist and Bruce Silverstein Gallery in New York. And she utilizes photography and creates story. I don't know if you can see the writing on the artwork, but creates this story. It's a memory about her Choctaw grandfather, and then also weaves this design work from other photography into her pieces, like Choctaw basketry. This vignette has multiple paintings in it, and I am just going to take a moment just to say the artist's name in the pieces. On your left right here is called Bear Crossing by Billy Hensley, Chickasaw, Choctaw, and he has a second piece right next to it. And this is acrylic on canvas called Identity. Choctaw artist Gwen Coleman Lester did this amazing piece of stickball sticks. One stickball stick has Irish design work honoring her Celtic heritage, and the other stickball stick has the Choctaw diamond pattern on it, and to honor her Choctaw heritage. Jimmy C. Fife also did this wonderful piece in the center. It's called Muscogee Mind Games. Incredible imagery in the patterns in the background, and then also chess pieces. So that's a chief on the right in the original, well, I say original, but it's Muscogee clothing from the 19th century. And then this young man to his left, they're playing chess. Chickasaw Choctaw artist Erin Shaw often incorporates birds and beautiful coloration in her acrylic on panel paintings. And if you can look closely, you'll see birds in the tree, and it's called Trio of Origins. Choctaw Linda Kelly Cook created this piece specifically for this exhibition called Sharing the Same Sun. Linda is a scratchboard artist and also does clayboard scratch work. This is watercolor on clayboard scratch work. And on the left is the Irish eagle, and on the right is the American bald eagle. As we wind up our exhibition, we're going to look at a few more things quickly. Muscogee Sunrise by Phyllis Fife, the Muscogee artist on the top. Quite colorful and beautiful. And then this piece below, which is Daniel McCoy, also Muscogee or Muscogee Creek, whichever, both are interchangeable. It depends how the artists identify their tribe, but it's mixed media on board. Has a wonderful texture and these beautiful designs. Choctaw artist Jane Semple Umstead submitted this work, and it's batik, some people call it batik, but it's batik giclée on canvas. Batik is created by using wax on fabric, and this was transferred to canvas. It is a story of the Trail of Tears entitled Night Journey Number 2. We also have some contemporary works, and this is by fashion designer Muscogee Creek, or Muscogee if you will, Maya Stewart. And these are actually purses, and they were fashioned after Muscogee mounds in the Southeast when we were mound builders. The bottom one is a black patent, and the top one is metallic silver cowhide. They're quite amazing, and she does a variety of very contemporary fashion designs. This is a fun piece by Daniel McCoy, and it was it's an homage to an album cover by he was a musician named Phil Lynott, and Phil was a favorite of indigenous artists in Santa Fe a couple of decades ago, and they still love his music. This is called Culture as Commodity. This little can looks like you might remember pop culture back in the 60s when they would do soup cans, Andy Warhol. This is a social commentary on commodities, and it's called Culture as Commodity. So in this day and time, what we try to avoid in our native cultures is how not to commodify culture. America Meredith also created a piece called New Grange, and she's Cherokee Nation, and she visited a place in Ireland called New Grange, which is also an ancient mound that has these spiral designs carved into stone there, and it very much mimics a lot of our spiral designs found in our mound cultures, and she framed it. It's watercolor on paper with Celtic design work. Caddo Choctaw artist Raven Half Moon McCarty is a glazed stoneware sculptor. This work is called French, Irish, and Choctaw. Raven also does very, very large sculptures of glazed stoneware that have found their way into very prestigious museums in America, and also has expanded her artwork considerably. They're very striking. So let's finish up our exhibition by going this way, and we'll look at these paintings and one last ceramic piece. This is by Dana Tiger, and Dana is the daughter of Jerome Tiger, Creek Seminole Cherokee artist, and she wanted to honor Wilma Mankiller, and of course former chief of the Cherokee Nation, and they had a really close relationship. And when Wilma passed away, she couldn't paint it for a year. But it's very ethereal and just her way to honor Chief Mankiller, who was a great leader of the Cherokee people. This large piece is by Muscogee Creek Bobby C. Martin, and it honors his grandmother, Mabel Carr. It shows her enrollment number, and Bobby creates these encaustic mixed media pieces, and he wanted to show both his Irish heritage and his Southeastern heritage. So he's honored his grandmother with this piece. And then behind are, encased in the encaustic, are maps of both Indian Territory and Ireland and the Southeast maps. So he integrated centuries of heritage together. It's really great. This acrylic and gold leaf on clapboard is called The Maestro by Dustin Mader, who's Chickasaw and Choctaw. And this is a portrait of a very important Chickasaw composer named Jared Tate. Jared is a classical composer, and his works have been recorded in multiple studios and are distributed across the nation, and he is composing classical works in many settings, and they're being played by orchestras and public performances in not only in America, but now going international. I love this piece right here by Patricia Ridge Bradley, who is also Choctaw. It's called Kuli Tuklo United Methodist Church in Pleasant Hill, Oklahoma. It was established in 1847, and she especially loved this church. Although it wasn't her family church, it looks very much like the church that she used to attend with her grandmother. It's a soft pastel on sanded paper. In closing, we're going to show two final works in display cases back here. This is a textile by Sandy Fife Wilson. Sandy had carved works in the case you saw at the beginning of the exhibition. It was carved shell work, and I might even revisit that so you can look at it closely. But this is also a bandolier bag. It's a Muscogee Chief's bag, and it's wool yarn, hand-dyed glass beads, and metal buttons. So you have beadwork and hand-woven creation. Another work by Aaron Shaw. These are two glazed porcelain pieces, and Aaron began to delve into ceramics a few years ago, and on the left is entitled Four Winds, and then in the center, the large platter is called Nani Iksat, which means fish clan in Chickasaw. As we conclude our exhibition, let's take one final peek at the place that we started, and that was over in this area. This is a piece by Jimmy C. Fife, and it's called There's Talk of Removal, and it is a combination of people from the Muscogee Creek Nation, and they're discussing the rumors that they're hearing about the treaties and land cessions that will mean they have to leave their homelands in the Southeast. And finally, we're going to look at these pieces. In the center, this large round shell is by Dustin Mader, Assembly of Champions. It is a story of reaching across time and indigenous representation on the left, and they're handing the ceremonial pipe across the tree to the Irish king on the right. Also in this case is shell carving by Sandy Fife Wilson, who's Muscogee, and we're looking at a whelk shell right now, and then just to the left of that is a conch. Well, the whelk shell is a conch shell, and I take it back. That's a whelk shell. This piece is oil pigment on lightning whelk, and then to our left is the conch shell, and it's got a leather strap. You can actually wear that around your neck. And then these two pieces, we walked by them, but I didn't talk about them. On your right is Autumn Wolf by Linda Kelly Cookett, Choctaw. That's mixed media on scratchboard. And that's the wolf. That's another reference to clans. We had clans, many clans in our Southeast tribes. We did have a wolf clan. And then this final piece, Blue Moving by Brenda Kingery, Chickasaw, Choctaw, is acrylic on paper. And again, it is narrative symbolism. It is about powwow dancers, their beautiful regalia, and the symbolic of feathers, ribbons, and dancing. So that concludes our exhibition. It has been a great honor to curate this exhibit with all these amazing artists. They're so talented and very generous to loan all these pieces, and also the collectors who loaned works for this exhibit. The Choctaw Cultural Center is, I can't even tell you how much it's meant to have this in a cultural setting, honoring their artists, honoring their their works, and our combined heritage. So thank you for joining us today. And we also want to thank all of our sponsors, not only the Choctaw Cultural Center, but the Muscogee Nation, the Cherokee Nation, and a venue where this was seen in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Living Arts Center of Tulsa. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your interest in the art of the Five Civilized Tribes. One quick note, I just have to tell you this one fun thing. This is how we'll end, really. I'm really ending. I wanted to show you this piece. It's called the Chickasaw Irish Eurasian Widgeon in the time of COVID. And this was of all the children that came through, and in 1 month they had 800 school children that got to view this exhibition. This was their favorite piece. And it is Chickasaw, Choctaw, Cherokee Nation artist Lokosh Joshua D. Henson, and it's polychrome painting on wood. And he sculpts these what you and I would call a decoy, but are actually sculptures of birds in this case. And this is an actual bird. And he also painted design work from our mound building cultures on the side, and references to our COVID period. So thank you to all the artists again, and come by and see it before the exhibition ends. You've got one more week after Christmas. It'll be over December 31st. Merry Christmas.